Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for a pretty special live stream we're having tonight, or this afternoon, depending on your location, potentially even this morning, because we do have people in 100 countries. We're talking about mental health, we're talking about mental well-being, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about mental trauma, post-traumatic stress, and suicide. We're going to talk about it sensitively, so I don't want anybody to get alarmed, but we are specifically going to be talking to a gentleman who is on a mission that we are 100% behind supporting. It's a gentleman by the name of Tony Dell. I don't think I can do justice to an introduction of Tony quite as well as the former Prime Minister, love him or hate him, Tony Abbott. So I'm going to switch over to Tony Abbott now.
Thanks for the chance to be part of the Stand Tall for Post-Traumatic Stress Forum. For those brave men and women charged with keeping our country and our community safe, exposure to trauma with a daily challenge.
Like I said, there's no way I could do an introduction better than that.
He went quiet on me. I never heard a thing.
Oh, really? You should have been able to hear him talking.
No, I heard the first 5 seconds, but then it went blank.
I hope that the audience didn't have the same experience, but
I hope they didn't either.
Mr. Abbott had some very positive and supportive things to say with respect to the conference, yourself, and Stand Tall for PTS. So, members, everybody, we are joined here with Tony Dell, former Test cricket champion. In fact, the only living Test cricket player in the world who has served in a war. Tony, I don't want to tell your story, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd love to hear a little bit about your story, and if you could perhaps share your journey and what led to you setting up and establishing Stand Tall for PTS.
Okay, well, I was a national serviceman back in the 60s. I had my 20th birthday in 65, and they drew marbles out of a hat, and they drew out my birthday. So everyone born on the 6th of August in 1945 who lived in Australia was eligible to be called up. And in 66, 67, I learned to be a soldier. And in 67, 68, I became one in Vietnam with 2 RAR. Came home and just continued my life as before, but it was different times then. It wasn't a very well received war by most Australians, and we were just told basically, don't wear your uniform in public, you might get spat on. So I just went back to work, continued in my job. I still play club cricket, and I'd always had this ambition to play cricket for Queensland. And eventually I did in 1970, 71. And then Don Bradman thought I was good enough to play for Australia, and I played in Ian Chappell's first Test match as captain in what was then the 7th Test. And we lost by a whisker, but not to worry. So I just continued playing cricket. I rose up the sort of the ranks in my job. I became a director, and then all of a sudden, in 1980, my boss fired me for no particular reason, but as it turned out, from 68 to 2008, I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder without knowing, without being diagnosed, and went through that whole period of not knowing why my life sort of went south on many occasions. It was good in a way because I now know that I became a workaholic, which is the brain's way of hiding the sorry.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
hit the wrong one.
it's the brain's way of hiding what's in there, and you subconsciously, I worked sort of dawn till dusk for 5-6 days a week, and became very good at what I did. But then, you'd have the the conniptions, and there's a classic one-man show from England called Shell Shock, and my favourite line is that the hero says, "Well, I'm okay. It's just the rest of the world that's out of sync." And I think that's a classic of for people with PTSD that really don't know why things go wrong. Anyway, I got fired from a couple of jobs, and then with the recession we had to have in 1990, and poor heating, and interest rates of 22%, a dodgy client fixed me up, and all of a sudden I lost everything. How I got through the 90s, I'll never really know. I had a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And by then there were cracks appearing in my marriage. And by the 2000, things had really gone pear-shaped, and I was living in my mum's garage in Caloundra on the Sunshine Coast, and my wife and kids were in Brisbane. And then I got a call from a couple of retired colonels who were involved in defence cricket, and said, "Oh, we have this International Defence Cricket Challenge every couple of years, and we'd like you to be our guest because you're the only Vietnam veteran that has played Test cricket." So I went to that, had a couple of days in Canberra, and then as I left, the colonels, being sort of very strict military men, said, "Well, have you still got your medals?" And I said, "Oh, no," because I'd never marched. I'd never gone back into dressing rooms, and they're typical sort of PTSD symptoms. And they said, "Well, you've got to get replacements." And that was, November 2007. I got a call in December. "Have you been yet?" "No." January, "Have you been yet?" "No." February, "Have you been yet?" "No." So I thought, well, they're going to hound me to death. I better go and find out about these medals. And I went to a drop-in centre in Maroochydore, Cotton Tree, Maroochydore. All they wanted to do was talk about cricket. And then after half an hour, they just said to me, "Hey, you've got PTSD. Am I allowed to swear on this?"
As long as it's minor.
And I said, "Oh, yes." So they said, we can get you a pension. And I said, "Oh, well, that'd be good. I'm completely stony broke." So they sent me off to see a psychiatrist. He confirmed the diagnosis, and all of a sudden I got a pension and a gold card. And I sort of did a whole heap of research on PTSD, and just quizzed the psychiatrist just on what the symptoms were, and going through my life and just finding out exactly why it had gone wrong and for what reason. So that was fine. Then I got a call from the colonels again, we've got the 2009 IDCC coming up, and we'd like you to be the guest speaker at the awards night and talk about your army service and your cricket career. So I did that, spoke for about half an hour, brought up a whole heap of new information that I'd gleaned from my research, and got a standing ovation, and got a laugh when I suggested that 12 months in Vietnam was good training to be in Ian Chappell's dressing room. And got a standing ovation because I dared talk about something which in 2009 was taboo. Got a hug from Angus Houston, who was still the CDF, and the patron of defence cricket. And then went back to the Sunshine Coast to have my second knee replaced. And as I lay in hospital, I just thought about, what can I do? I can't, I'm only allowed to work 8 hours a week, and that's a death sentence in itself for someone with post-traumatic stress disorder. So I came up with the idea of forming a not-for-profit, which we now stand for PTS. Got a lot of help from various people in setting it up. And after a very slow start, I was introduced to Tony Abbott by Catherine McGregor, who wrote the story on me in the Weekend Australian. And we became the charity attached to the Prime Minister's match in 2015. And that became sort of the starting point for a lot more action as far as we were concerned. And we were really on the road. And at that time, Angus Houston had said to me, we need to sort of collaborate more with others in this same field. And we staged our very first conference in 2015. We did a convoy from southeastern Australia with army vehicles and personnel, first responders, and then came back, did our second conference in 2017. That was, we felt, more successful. And then in 2018, we did another convoy and partnered with the Invictus Games. And basically, with the two convoys, we travelled about 8,500 kilometres, did about 100 interviews, and we think we probably, reached about 10 million people.
Wow.
And then 2019, the message was that everyone was all conferenced out, and so we took things quietly. But then I sat down with Stuart Cameron, who was formerly the Queensland president of the RSL, and we decided that conferences had become talk fests. Principally, it was academics and researchers talking to academics and researchers, and there was no real sort of guts or results coming from them. So we decided we'd do something different, and that was when this, I don't call it a conference, I call it a forum, which is happening in March next year. That came about. We spoke to lots of other ex-service organisations and researchers and clinicians, and hit on what the program should be. And we're just concentrating on transition, suicide, and models of care. And I've got.
Really important that we have these discussions, Tony, because and it's something that's very close to my heart. I work ordinarily, or I volunteer quite heavily in the suicide prevention space for a number of organisations, and it's the leading cause of death for 18 to 44-year-olds with ADF, ex-serving ADF males being 18% more at risk than civilian males. It's a significant pandemic in itself, if you like, and it's not just limited to Australia. We have 2.5 times the road toll in suicide deaths here in Australia, more than 3,000 and rising every year. But globally, we lose someone every 40 seconds. It really is a much bigger deal than COVID in a lot of respects. So PTS 21, who's going to be participating? Can you tell us a little bit about who will be participating in?
Yeah, well, I mean, just on that, I mean, I talked to you before we came to air that, am I rubbing the authorities up the wrong way by, taking it upon myself to do what we do? But, I was told yesterday that in the last 3 weeks, 9 military have topped themselves, and the bloody ADF only knew about one of them.
Yeah, I've heard the same reports,
Well, so basically, I have a fantastic lady called Dr. Barbara Van Dalen. She's the chief executive of the presidential task force looking into suicide in the USA. She started up an organization called Give an Hour, and has passed the mantle over to Dr. Randy Phelps, who is running it. Both of those were coming to PTS 20 as it was, and then got stuffed up by COVID. It's now PTS 21, and we'll have them on screen. There's a lady in the UK called Sarah Austin. She set up a magnificent organisation through the NHS in Southampton for just the perfect model of care. A guy called Tim Jones who has the ultimate app for transition, and a Dr. Walter Basutil, who's the chief psych at Combat Stress in the UK. So as a result of COVID and this being a hybrid model, the whole idea was that we'd have this assembled audience at the BCEC in Brisbane, and we'd have these two organisations and people on screen. And they've all agreed, even though it's going to be the middle of the night when we've got the conference happening. And then I said to myself, well, if we can do that, why don't we bring in someone from New Zealand and someone from Canada and make it a total global thing and a Five Eyes thing? And in the last week, I've been introduced to someone that's very close to the NYPD, who are doing fantastic work on suicide prevention in the American police force. And it's very likely that we'll have them as well. So we have experts from around the world. We've got a global feeling of what's going wrong in all these individual countries. And we know that the problems we have are shared by others, and hopefully we can come up with the solutions that we're after.
I mean to interrupt you there. There's a lot we can talk about, and we could sit here for hours. But we are very quickly approaching 20 minutes, and I kind of want to keep.
No. I see. Brief. I told you, wind me up, and I'll just keep going.
Yeah. I am going to cut you short, but you are welcome to come back and talk in. Sorry, my dog's going off now. To talk in more detail. I understand that one of the main objectives of the Action Forum, as I'm referring to it, is to bring Give an Hour to Australia.
Yeah,
and a big way that we're going to enable that is through the fundraising program you've established with Bolt for Mental Trauma.
Yes.
In the studio, we did have a moment ago Alexander Bowden, who was going to join us, the founder of Bolt for Gold. But unfortunately, he has dropped out of the studio at the moment. So what I'd like to do is...
Well, yeah, you want me to just explain briefly? I mean, Alex came to me with this fundraising idea, and we've grabbed hold of that, made it even bigger than he first envisaged, and we've now got sort of the ultimate website and app, which and part of a national advertising campaign worth $1 million, which has all been donated. It's all pro bono. We've got some magnificent television commercials, press commercials, magazines. All the media are working in, and we just want to encourage people to either walk, run, or ride, and save lives, and help us, do what we'd like to do with the money we raise. And Give an Hour is pretty important, I think, in Australia. In America, they've given away about 350,000 free hours to people in need, mainly veterans, and they're keen to partner with us and set it up here. And with our sparse population and the vast country, there's a crying need for it. With people in rural, regional, and remote areas, with no one to talk to, and if we can provide that via Give an Hour, hopefully we'll make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done a bit of homework myself on Give an Hour, and they've won something I'd love to see come into Australia myself. They've won a platinum transparency award for their transparency on how they do everything and afford everything.
Yeah,
they've given $33 million worth of free clinical care over 300,000 hours. It's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Well, they've just been given money by Aetna, the insurance company, to provide, I think, 6 hours of free time to the 700,000 COVID workers in New York State. I mean, that's massive. I mean, that's multi-million dollars.
That's incredible. So how does Bolt for Mental Trauma work? We want people to register, obviously, to run, walk, or cycle. How does it raise money itself? How does one, after, how do I make money for you?
Well, I mean, it's the old story. I mean, you get together in groups, you get and you talk to your friends and say, okay, well, I'm going to run 10K or walk 10K. All of you give me $1 a K, and in that time, someone might raise $200-300. We reckon that with the research we've done with the families and friends connected to 70,000 ADF members, 360,000 first responders around the country, 1,200 RSL clubs members, all their families and friends, there could be up to 9 million Australians who have a first-hand or a secondary emotional attachment to these problems of PTSD and mental trauma. And if we can only get to, say, 1/10 of those, 900,000, we could hopefully raise some significant money. And you talked about transparency. Stand Tall is totally volunteer, totally not for profit. I live on the pension I got maybe 10 years ago, and we'll have federal judges and accountancy firms just looking after the money, and we'll put together a group of concerned organisations and say, okay, we've got X dollars, and we think that they should be distributed this way, and can we have some input from you? So, that's
Excellent.
the way we want to work it. I mean, there's funds around the place that appear to be dodgy, and not us.
Transparent, shall we say. And the last thing we want is any sort of bushfire appeal kind of.
No. Well, who knows where all of that went.
So to keep it really simple for our viewers, you want us to go to bolt number 4 mental trauma.
Yeah. .org, register. All the information's on there, what you can do, how you can do it, and where the donations can be registered and sent.
Excellent. So register, run, cycle, walk, ride.
Yeah, and there'll be prizes given. We haven't really sort of delved down into that yet. We're sort of trying to get a couple of sponsors. We're also looking at on the same website creating an arts and crafting where people can submit their ideas, whether it be photographic, drawing, painting, little video of their idea of recovery.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. And we're also seeking sponsors, which you can connect with myself or with Tony if you want to become a sponsor. We both have the sponsor document that we can distribute, but I'll touch a bit more on that a little bit later as we come towards the close. So, and obviously we want everyone to subscribe, like, share, tell their friends, and all of that sort of stuff. So look, Tony, I am going to wrap it up very soon. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your vision for March 19th. I'm really looking forward to hearing more as we get closer and closer to that date and celebrate those milestones along the way. It's great to be a part of such a vision for change, and I'm really enthusiastic and excited about Give an Hour. I think it's going to be amazing. So thank you very much for joining us. Before we do come to a close, I'm just you don't just have our support at Aussies and Kiwis. We also have the support of our good friend OJ Rushton, who I'm just bringing in now. She'd love to say a couple
Hi,
of quick
OJ.
Hi, Tony.
I'm going to jump out so you guys can have a quick chat for a minute or two, and I'll then just draw everything to a close. I'll come back and draw everything to a close. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Sure, thank you. Well, yes, from the Aussie Youth Choir honouring Defence Day, I know those at Aussies and Kiwis for Anzacs, you've seen my face before. I've got my sun hat on. I've got my walking shoes on. Tony, we're really very excited to partner with this amazing cause. We want to get the kids involved, our youth choir. We're more than just a choir. We bring music and history together to inspire and develop young leaders. But we also help support veteran families. So we're very much about the family and supporting, and we know that if a veteran has PTSD, that quite possibly the children will develop that if it's not, if it's not. Oh, I'm getting a funny echo, but if it's not dealt with. Anyway, so just wanted to jump on and let you know we're right behind this. We're very excited, and we're going to be planning to be part of it and also be able to raise some money for this great cause. So thank you, Tony, for everything you're doing. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, tell me a bit more about your choirs. I'm interested. Where are you based?
So we're an online choir, which we were one of the world's first online choirs. We started just before the centenary of Anzac, bringing 176 schools along 500 kilometres of New South Wales together on the as we reenacted the Kangaroo March of 1915-16. Wow. And we had a number of children. We started little mobs along the march route. So I think at one stage we had 6 along that march, and we performed and the kids travelled. And since then we've really developed into a place where we're passionate about education, commemoration and welfare. So we use music and history to develop leaders, and our young leaders come from all over Australia, and we actually have school partners in Rouen, in France. We've been to the Western Front. We did a singing tour of the Western Front in 2018.
Yeah,
and
I saw something on that.
Yeah, so we're really passionate about helping our young people understand service and sacrifice, and the ultimate, the war doesn't end when you come home.
No.
And we're getting our young people to understand that. They were very heavily involved in Invictus Games, from the walk and talk right through to being on stage at the opening of Invictus Games on Sydney Harbour there. So we're very passionate about supporting veterans and their families, but also educating young people about the importance not just of commemoration, but of supporting our veterans, our troops, and anything we can do to help. We're here.
Yeah, well, I think Jay should put us together by email and phone, and we should talk off air and try and work about how, what we can do over the next 3 months, 4 months, and maybe get a choir to perform at our dinner, which is set down for a week after the conference. And the dinner will be in March 26th in Brisbane. So we should aim for something like that. We'll probably have the Queensland Pops Orchestra, which is made up mainly of veteran musicians, performing, and you guys we should look at doing, maybe we write a special song for it.
I think that would be wonderful. We've got some songwriters amongst the kids who are very talented, and we've also got veteran young people, and most of our young people have some kind of connection to the veteran community, either directly or as grandchildren, or children or nieces, nephews, etc. So
we have a number of musicians and bands that we're affiliated with and friends with, and that follow the group as well. I'm sure some of them would love to sit down and write something new. Maybe we can offline.
Yeah, for the last 6 months, I've been watching Zoom concerts. Maybe we can do something like that.
Yes, well, we've done really fun. Yes, well, Jay and Justin and I have collaborated on a couple of online concerts already. So I'm sure we can do something like that. Yeah. And make it really special and get as many people and as many musicians, as many people who sing. We can maybe put out for people who sing to join. We can put an orchestra put a choir together of people that want to be part of this and stand tall for PTS.
Okay,
brilliant, guys. I'm gonna pull us to a close now. Thank you so much for joining us. I will be talking with you more and more and more and more over the coming weeks, and we'll do more live streams and updates along the way. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks guys.
AJ. And thanks everyone for watching. I know we went significantly longer than we had planned there, but I do appreciate you hanging in there with us. As I said, as Tony and I were talking about, this is a massive program with a major end goal that's going to significantly change the landscape of Australia and how it is that we provide mental health supports, especially to those that are disadvantaged or have access issues where it is that they may live. There's a whole bunch of really exciting stuff. You may have seen during the stream there that the first 2,000 registrations that raise $200 or more will receive a merch pack. That merch pack contains a hat, and on the side of the hat there will be the Aussies and Kiwis for Anzacs logo as well. We're pretty happy about that, as well as a face mask and a drink bottle. Here's a photo of the hat with the Anzac logo on it. Sorry, we're pretty pleased. We're pretty chuffed about that. And we also have some packs to give away over the course of the coming weeks as we venture into that. I am going to draw it to a close. As I said, thank you very much. Sponsors, supporters, people who want to get involved, volunteers, please reach out to me. Send me a PM via the send message function at the top of the group there. or reach out to Tony via the pts21.org website, the Bolt for Mental Trauma website, or the Stand Tall for PTS website. To our veterans, thank you for your service, and to everybody else, join me in saying lest we forget. Thank you so much.
Raise your glass to 100 years of freedom. Raise your glass, raise your glass to the men who took the fall. Raise your glass. Give thanks for this country. There's a generation never coming